Okay, so there's an interesting theory going around about the BAND-MAID Eggman Pre-OS okyuji show, which popped up during the Gaijin Guys podcast this week. The theory is that the Eggman show was doctored up in post using audio and video from a pre-recorded concert in an empty Eggman room. Now, whether this happened or not, it's not really that important. It was a great video either way. But one of the biggest standouts to this show for me was that it was an authentic performance, where they kept the flub-ups in. It wasn't perfect, but it was authentic. As a musician, it's difficult to put out recordings of stuff that shows your flaws. But ultimately, as a fan, I think it's endearing. But even though that I said this show is fully authentic, I don't think you should believe me, unless I can prove it to you. I actually think it's absolutely nuts to believe anything you hear without seeing the evidence. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to look at the evidence, and if I'm wrong, that's fine. It's really not about who's right or wrong, it's about finding the truth. Now, first off, why do I think this is worth doing? Well, the biggest reason is that if this is an authentic performance, flaws and all, that BAND-MAID humbly and genuinely presented to us, it would be really unfair to them to have a rumor going around that it's partially fake. An unfair game, if you will. Oh, man. So I'm doing my due diligence to investigate. First, let's look at the claim. It says that at the 37:18 mark in the stream, during Endless Story, Psyche lowers her mic in the middle of the verse, the camera cuts to Misa, but the vocals continue uninterrupted. The claim continues after further viewing, watching for similar things, that there are definitely more instances. So this led them to deduce that BAND-MAID recorded a full concert at Eggman to an empty room, video and sound, and that most of what we see is from that, noting how few shots there were of an actual live event with people, as opposed to close-up shots of the members from directly in front of the stage. The claim continues that you also never see any of the stage front cameras in any of the wide shots. Alright, we've got a BAND-MAID conspiracy theory. How fun! Let's investigate to see if this theory could be true. Side note, for some reason, the term conspiracy theory has become tainted by its use to discredit people who don't believe everything they hear. But conspiracies happen all the time, are covered up, and the truth doesn't get uncovered until someone comes up with a theory of what's really happening. Then sometimes these theories are right, and evidence comes out later that proves it. So I don't use conspiracy theorist as a dismissive insult. I think it's always important to try to see other people's perspective and to try to understand them. I think in some cases, conspiracy theorists are basically heroes that could see through whatever BS some of us fell for. Anyway, enough about that. We're going to investigate 3 things in this video. First, do we see any cameras in the wide shots? Second, are there inconsistencies when cutting from wide shots to close-up stage shots? We can determine this from stage position, poses, and lighting. And third, and probably most interesting, does Psyche's mic lowering at 37:18 prove this theory true? Now I'm approaching this as both a professional videographer and editor, as well as a musician and a music producer. So I'm going to look at all the angles I can. Let's look at the first claim. No cameras for close-ups show in the wide shots. Now this claim kinda implies that they filmed the full show ahead of time, then just popped a camera on a tripod in the back of the room for a wide shot they could splice in whenever they wanted to. Now, it's definitely possible, and it's a clever way to produce a high quality product. And honestly, I couldn't find a camera person in any of the wide shots I looked at. Now obviously I couldn't look at all of them because it would take days to analyze the full 100-minute concert. So I'll just give this point to the claimant and move on to number 2. Are there inconsistencies cutting from close-ups to wide audience shots that prove they were filmed at different times? Let's look at the footage. Alright, so at 22:36, we fade from a wide shot showing Psyche adjusting her in-ear monitor to a close-up of her, and during the fade you can see her arm position matches perfectly between the 2 shots. If you watch backward, forward, clearly shot at the same time with the audience. At 22:55, we cut from a close-up of Psyche to a wide shot, and she's in the exact same pose with her arm up. Again, we'll reverse it in slow motion and play it forward again. You can see frame to frame to frame, same arm position. But let's look at some shots in the song in question, Endless Story. At 36:52, Psyche has her hand on her chest in a close-up and starts to drop it just before a cut to a wide shot, where you see her hand in mid-drop. Frames side by side, you see her hand there, and it falls. At 36:55, at the end of this wide shot, just 23 seconds before the mic incident, we see another fade from a wide shot, showing Psyche starting to bow as it fades, and you can clearly see that the wide shot and close shots match up perfectly. Now to me, these shots clearly prove that there were videographers there filming the live show. So, I'm sorry, I gotta take that first point away. Now here's the real bombshell to me. At 25:51, we clearly see the hand of an audience member between Psyche and the camera. When it cuts to the wide shot, you see that everyone is waving their arms to the song. That seems pretty consistent to me, but this would be another reason why we wouldn't see the videographers. At the US shows, they always had their videographer filming. I believe his name was Atsushi, please correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't super tall. You couldn't really see him walking around filming in front of the stage unless you were near the front or elevated in the back. And this is also a good time to mention, professional videographers have zoom lenses. You can be in the back of a venue with a 200mm zoom lens, and you can get shots that look close up. You don't need to be in the front of the stage. Well, these shots of Konami and Misa were clearly shot from in front of the stage. You can see the cameras underneath them, and they're using a wider angle lens. But then you get this Miku shot, which is clearly more elevated, shot with a zoom lens. Technically a close-up shot, but you can tell they're elevated above the crowd. Same with this shot of Psyche here. You can tell this camera's far away with that camera shake, very noticeable, but it looks like a close-up. Now, as a professional videographer, I can tell you that we will almost always cut the shots where we see a part of our crew in the shot, because it breaks the illusion for the viewer of being an invisible spectator at whatever event you're watching. So that could be another explanation for why it's so rare. Okay, finally, claim number 3. Psyche lowers her mic at 37:18 and the vocals continue. Roll the tape. Alright, it's a fair point. Good eye, sir. Let's watch it in slow motion again, just for good measure. Well, I don't know if we actually learned anything from that, but it was funny. Now ideally, I would search for fan cam footage to watch it actually live, but I don't think that was allowed in Japan. I couldn't find fan cams anywhere, but this kind of adds another layer to the theory. It would be the perfect location to get away with this. No one can document the raw show on camera, so there could be no side-by-side comparisons. So I think I've made a fair argument for this theory here. On the claimant's side, now let's dig a bit deeper. As I watched this over and over, I listened very closely to the vocals while watching the video intently. Here's what I noticed. First off, Endless Story always has a backing track with the vocals. So sorry about that. And that's one layer that continues on through this section. Right here, you can hear it on the backing track. And that's one layer that continues throughout this whole section. Now secondly, Miku has her own vocal line which starts at the 1 of the measure, after Psyche lowers her mic. So there's already plenty of vocals going on filling that space with many layers. But what really stands out to me is when I reference the original song to see what Psyche is actually singing in the original. In the music video itself at 2:33, we get this close-up of Psyche singing. Then she fades out of the scene at the same moment she lowers her mic in the live video. But for me, Psyche's actual lyrics and lines in the song are what gave me the answers I needed. Before lowering her mic, she sings the phrase, "Day by day, jimon jido shite." Yeah, I probably butchered that. But then her next phrase, "Dareka janakete." Well, I'll just let her sing it. Right here. That phrase doesn't start until the 3 of that next measure, leaving 2 full counts of a measure with no Psyche vocals. That combined with Miku's vocal line starting on the 1 of that measure and the backing track of the "oh woes," in my mind, this detail is thoroughly debunked. Now I obviously can't say with 100% certainty whether I'm right or not, but I'm just presenting the evidence I found so you can make up your own mind. I mean, concerts are doctored up in post all the time in the industry. It's not that big of a deal. I just thought this was a fun theory, and thank you to the person who shared it with us on Gaijin Guys, and thank you BAND-MAID for creating music and entertainment that stirs up so much passion in us that we think about all this so deeply, and thank you for watching. Like and sub if you want to, and check out this other BAND-MAID video here.